What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Our Stream is Cheaters. Today we've got a video about JACKFRAGS, who has tried to explain what he believes happened in the DIAZ BIFFLE clip. Now this has a lot more detail in the video than whatever other response we've heard from any of these other content creators. In fact, JACKFRAGS actually makes a very good argument that it could just be bullet spread from hipfire. Now, with that being the case, what are the chances of that actually hitting somebody through the flower bed? I mean, the odds of that happening are ridiculously stupid, but it definitely adds reasonable doubt. So what we're going to do today, we're going to take a look into JACKFRAG's reason behind what happened in DIAZ BIFFLE's clip. We're going to go into a little bit of detail about it. If you do enjoy today's video, guys, be sure to hit that thumbs up. If you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at BadBoy Beaman. It's the best place for you guys to stay in touch and up to date. Right. Let's crack on with the video. Coming across to JACKFRAG's channel here, he's put a video out saying cheating in Call of Duty Warzone, or is it? And he actually goes into detail in this. He actually got 23 players together, gone into a private match and tried to reenact what happened in the Biffle clip. And I think it's fantastic that he went out of his way to do that rather than just blindly defending Biffle, and like a lot of other people actually have. But in the video, he goes into detail about how it could be bullet spread. He explains about the UAV. Everybody already was aware of the UAV and so on. But the difference is when he's trying to reenact what happened with DIAZ BIFFLE and the bullet spread, his crosshair placement is in fact above the concrete of the plant bed, whereas DIAZ BIFFLE's is not. And we've actually got a comparison to show you today. Now listen, I don't want you guys to make any decisions blindly, but I'm not going to be able to sit here and play JACKFRAG's video right the way through. But it is linked in the description below if you want to go and check it out. I'm all for finding out the truth. I am not for throwing blame at people willy-nilly. I just said willy-nilly. Either way, I don't want to actually just say this is 100% this or 100% that. That is not how we work here on this channel. So the fact that JACKFRAGS has actually put this information out is fantastic. And he has beaten anybody else to the punch who was actually trying to replicate what happened with DIAZ BIFFLE. Now, I know people are out there trying to replicate it with silent aim as well, and people are trying to replicate it standard. But JACKFRAGS actually managed to do something that does sort of resemble what happened with DIAZ BIFFLE. So we're going to showcase a little moment from JACKFRAG's video now. He goes into detail explaining where the enemy is not, stating that you literally cannot see the enemy at this part of the video now.
No player model visible on the screen. There's no one behind the tree closest to him, in front of him. The trees on this map are too thin and you would see a player model sticking out. There's no one behind the smaller plant here next to the tree, and there's no one behind the tree in the background. So where is the player that gets hit?
So he's gone into a bit of detail and analysed the whole visuals and stated that you cannot see a visible player. Now, there were a lot of people saying that there was an enemy behind the tree right here and that you could actually see the enemy's gun sticking out. That was not the case. What people believe to be the enemy's gun was actually the sandbags behind, as far as I can see. Goes into detail about the tree in the background, saying there's no one there, there's no one behind this plant, and there's no one visible behind this planter. And these are all very good things to point out. The fact that there's absolutely no visible enemy. The way people stating that maybe there was an enemy in one of the windows in the building in the background and his silent aim picked that up. Or maybe, just maybe, it locked onto them. But following the bullets in the direction in which they travelled, every single one of them you can see actually connects with something in front of him. You can actually see it hitting the planter and then hitting the floor. He only fires 4 bullets in this scenario, but he does get a hit marker. And I believe, based on what we've seen now, that it is only the first bullet that connects. Although it did appear to look like all 4, it is only the first one. And then the next 3 don't connect. So if it was silent aim, would all 4 connect? Not necessarily, because there's something I want to explain. If you have silent aim on its full settings, it will hit most shots. Not all shots actually hit, but you could literally shoot the ground in front of you and it would kill the next nearest visible player. However, you can actually set the field of view of your silent aim to be smaller. Just like you can with a normal aimbot field of view, you can actually increase and decrease it. If you decrease it so that it's, I don't know, say the size of a pin dot or a 5p piece or anything like that, then your silent aim will in fact only work within that. So if you are hip firing enemies and you have an enemy within that circle, then it will actually connect them bullets. it doesn't necessarily mean the silent aim works as if it's rage hacking all the time, not at all. But JACKFRAGS does show an example of silent aim in this video, but they are rage hack settings for silent aim. There is no adjustments on the field of view or anything like that, so it is literally all bullets connect to the next available target. But silent aim can be adjusted just like aimbot, so take that into consideration as well. So could it be that silent aim was in use here and his field of view for that silent aim in fact connected the first bullet, but then he moved his crosshair away from the enemy? It's a possibility. But again, there's reasonable doubt there now. So JACKFRAGS does a couple of examples here of how DIAZ Biffle's aim went certain places. He explains about the bullet traces that we see and spotted, and said that it can be an in-game mechanic glitch where it will show traces going in a different direction. There was 2 of them and it turned into 1, and he's claiming that that could be just a bug in the game. And he says that Activision should maybe go and look at that and fix it. But again, I am just reiterating a couple of things that JACKFRAGS said. If you want to see what he had to say fully, go and check out his video. If you want to go and check that out and then come back here, feel free. But something I want to point out now is that when JACKFRAGS tried to reenact what happened with DIAZ Biffle, there was a slight difference. So let's go and see that now. Now, this is the exact moment before the first hip-fire shot is fired. And you can see exactly where DIAZ Biffle's crosshair placement is. And it is aimed directly at the concrete planter, which in JACKFRAG's video he claims cannot be shot through. He demonstrated he has an enemy standing behind the planter and he cannot shoot through that planter and cause any damage to the enemy. Now, remember this point. Look at the exact location where his crosshair is placed before the first shot is fired. Now, let's take a look at JACKFRAGS so we can see whether or not it actually lines up. And it doesn't. But as we said, it is going to be near impossible to actually fully 100% replicate what happened in the DIAZ Biffle clip. So has JACKFRAGS done this intentionally? Probably not. But he's gone out of his way and put as much effort into this as possible to try and explain what happened. But you can clearly see that JACKFRAG's crosshair placement before his first shots are fired here are in fact above the concrete part of the planter. In fact, his is in line with the plants. So that is a massive difference. Now, although this was probably not intentional, I do believe that he may have tried and tested aiming with his crosshair at the planter to try and get that bullet spread hip fire shot. And it hasn't worked, so he's gone to this. But if it is just bullet spread, then it shouldn't matter what maybe a couple of millimeters on the game is going to do if your crosshair placement's at the concrete or just above on the plants, if it is in fact bullet spread that's caused the shot to land. Now, how many times are you going to have to reenact this to make it work? Who knows? But there is a clear difference. Now, let's put them side by side so you can see exactly the difference. Now, whilst the quality of the images aren't the best, you can still clearly see the difference in the crosshair placement. JACKFRAGS, who's on the left there, you can see that his crosshair is actually aligned with the plants on top of the planter, whereas on DIAZ Biffle's, you can actually see how his is quite far down into the concrete section of the planter. Could this make a difference when it comes to bullet spread? Because essentially that is in fact JACKFRAG's argument in this situation, that DIAZ Biffle's bullet landed due to bullet spread. Now, of course, it is extremely awkward to try and explain, and there is going to be nobody out there who can put 100% definitive proof as to whether or not it was cheating or if it was, in fact, bullet spread. Now, what I want to do, though, to try and clear a couple of things up is take a look at DIAZ Biffle's hip-fire shots from the past and see whether or not he has this same sort of bullet spread that JACKFRAGS is talking about in this situation. So the question is, could the position of those crosshairs make a difference as to whether or not a hip-fire bullet spread shot could actually land on an enemy who was stood behind the planter? But again, it would need to be tested, wouldn't it, where the crosshair placement is lower and see whether or not it can still hit a shot. If that is the case and it can still hit a shot even when the crosshair is lined up like DIAZ Biffle's, then maybe, just maybe, it was in fact a hip-fire bullet spread. Let's take a look at some of the bullet spread from DIAZ Biffle's past hipfire gameplay. Now, this is the first example of what DIAZ Biffle's hipfire looks like. Now, you have to take into consideration the weapon he's using, the attachments his weapon has got, and whether or not it's built for hipfire and so many other variables. However, just take a look at the accuracy of his hipfire in this clip.
Oh, what the fuck?
So in that situation, every single bullet seemed to just go in a straight line. There was absolutely no bullet spread there, in my opinion. but it does show that he can hip fire the way he does. But he does hip fire like an absolute laser, and this is something that's been called out many a times in the past as to why DIAZ BIFFLE doesn't have any bullet spread when he's hip firing. Let's continue watching. Again, it just seemed to be too accurate with hip fire. So is it a case of the gun he was using at the time? Is it a case of the fact that DIAZ BIFFLE didn't have something turned on that he did in the past and that's caused the bullet spread? But when you check the lack of bullet spread in his hip fire shots so far, I mean, could it be bullet spread that's happened in that most recent clip? Let's show you some more clips of DIAZ BIFFLE using hip fire now.
Dude, what are you fucking doing, bro? No, I'm not playing with this guy anymore. No one says you hack, Papa. Like, I just fucking hit fired you across the map. No one says you hack, Papa. Like, I just fucking hip fired you across the map.
It just seems when he's hip firing, and it has been like this for a while, that his bullets just run in a straight line, almost as if he's ADS. So why would it be now that he starts to get bullet spread? Oh no, that's not it though, guys. We've actually got more clips of DIAZ BIFFLE hip firing. And anyone else out there wants to go and check any of his streams and check all of his hip fire situations, you will see similarities to what we are showing you here.
You've got gas moving in.
So at this point we have to question whether or not DIAZ BIFFLE even gets any sort of bullet spread on any weapon. Now although some of these are from Verdansk, if you go and check out any of his gameplay and check out his hip fires, you will see how accurate they actually seem to be at further distances than what is actually being explained in the JACKFRAGS video and what we've actually seen in the video of DIAZ BIFFLE itself. So could it be? Yes, it's a possibility that there was one stray bullet that just so happened to go and dip around that planter and hit somebody. But is that the case? I think a lot of things are swaying in the other direction, although JACKFRAGS makes some valid points, and it is great to have a clear head giving an explanation and an honest argument to whether or not DIAZ BIFFLE is cheating. I'm going to let you guys go and check out JACKFRAG's video and see whether or not he has any valid points, and if you do agree with him, come back here and let me know and explain why. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And I would love to know whether or not any sort of bullet spread bullets could actually hit an enemy whilst aiming the way DIAZ BIFFLE was rather than the way JACKFRAGS was in his video. And again, like I've stated, I genuinely don't believe JACKFRAGS has done this intentionally, but I do think that he may have tried and tested it aiming the way DIAZ BIFFLE was in his, and it didn't work. But again, we can only test and find out, which brings me to the next part. So I might actually run some tests as well. I might need a couple of people to come into a private game with me so that I can try and run some tests as well. Let me know in the comments below if you fancy that. Well, there we have it, guys. As we mentioned, JACKFRAGS has put a lot of detail and effort into his explanation as to what he believes happened in the DIAZ BIFFLE clip. And as we said at the start, it does add reasonable doubt. So could this just be bullet spread, just like JACKFRAGS said? Even if JACKFRAG's crosshair placement was slightly different to where DIAZ BIFFLE's was, if the whole argument is bullet spread, then that shouldn't really matter. But it's got to be taken into consideration. However, it is probably going to be near impossible to try and replicate what happened in DIAZ BIFFLE's clip perfectly. But nobody's going to be able to replicate that 100%. We have to take that into consideration. But also, checking out past clips of DIAZ BIFFLE in Verdansk and in Caldera, you see absolutely zero bullet spread when he's hip firing enemies. at a further distance than what this enemy is supposedly meant to be. So there is still arguments from both sides as to whether or not this is bullet spread or to whether or not it is silent aim. But the questions have to be asked and answered as well, and JACKFRAGS coming out the way he did with the detail that he's put into his video is actually splendid to see. You don't actually get many content creators willing to put that time and effort in to try and defend someone else. But also, I don't believe JACKFRAGS was trying to defend Biffle. I believe he thought, whoa, what the hell happened here, and decided to try and break it down to see whether or not he could replicate it. And throughout him trialing and testing, he's managed to cause reasonable doubt about that clip. So, does this actually clear DIAZ Biffle's name? Or is he still suspicious? And is this clip still suspicious on its own? Well, we'll let you guys decide on that, but the content creators who jumped to DIAZ Biffle's defense instantly and tried to completely dismiss it, Swag saying it was behind the tree, Mutex saying it was behind the planter, calling everyone stupid, and then you had Symphony just using sarcasm, and then Spiros basically calling people brain dead. I mean, JACKFRAGS come at this with an unbiased approach, and I think his video was a great watch. So it is linked in the description below, guys, and I would suggest you go and check it out. This could actually answer a couple of questions for anyone who's on the fence. Maybe this will actually open your eyes as to what happened, or maybe you'll see the difference between all the hipfire kills we've shown in today's video compared to what happened in that clip. It's up to you guys to decide. As always, let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you did enjoy today's video, be sure to hit that thumbs up if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. If you want to support the channel further, you can hit that blue join button today and become a member of the Triple B fam. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at BadBoy Beaman, because that's where all the fun happens. Until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace!
I just fucking hit fired you across the map. I just fucking hit fired you across the map.